The bridge of the Artemis hummed with quiet efficiency as Captain Helena Skov leaned against her command console, her piercing eyes scanning the endless expanse of space beyond the reinforced viewports. A faint ripple of unease settled in her gut. Years of warfare had taught her to trust that instinct. "Status report," she called, her voice steady and sharp. "All systems operational," replied Lieutenant Graham from the tactical station. "No anomalies, just another quiet patrol." "Too quiet," Helena muttered, more to herself than anyone else. Her instincts were rarely wrong, and they screamed of unseen danger lurking in the void. Moments later, the silence was shattered by the comms officer. "Captain, incoming distress signal. A civilian freighter, Dawn ***. They're reporting engine failure near Quadrant 7B. Helena straightened. A civilian freighter stranded this close to the border was unusual. "Details?" "Minimal," the officer replied. "Their signal's weak, but they're broadcasting a standard Federation SOS. No indication of hostiles in the vicinity." Helena tapped her fingers on the console, weighing the situation. The Artemis was built for combat, not rescues, but protocol demanded they respond. "Set a course. Keep shields at standby and weapons primed. Something about this stinks." The crews sprang into action. Engines roared to life, propelling the Artemis toward the distressed freighter. Helena monitored the sensors closely, her jaw tightening as the Dawnstar appeared on the main display, a hulking cargo vessel adrift in the darkness. "Visual," she ordered. The freighter's image flickered onto the screen. It was scarred and battered, its hull pockmarked with signs of neglect. For a ship in distress, it seemed eerily still. "Tactical, anything unusual?" Helena asked. "No life signs aboard," Graham reported, frowning. "Their signal must be automated. Or a trap," Helena said. "Launch a recon drone. I want eyes on that ship before we get any closer." The drone zipped through space, feeding back grainy visuals. As it neared the Dawnstar, a flicker of movement caught Helena's eye. Shadows darted across the freighter's hull. "Enhance and freeze," she commanded. The image zoomed in, revealing humanoid figures clad in sleek, alien armor. Helena's stomach sank. "Boarding team," she hissed. "They're using the freighter as bait." Before she could issue further orders, the Artemis jolted violently. The ship's alarms wailed as a barrage of energy blasts struck their hull. "Enemy ships decloaking!" Graham shouted. 5 vessels. They've surrounded us." Helena's mind raced. "Raise shields. Return fire, target their weapon systems." The bridge erupted into controlled chaos. The Artemis unleashed its cannons, striking one of the smaller ships and forcing it to retreat. The others circled like predators, raining fire on the human vessel. "Captain, they're trying to disable us," the tactical officer warned. Helena's gaze hardened. "Not today. Divert auxiliary power to propulsion. I want us mobile now." The Artemis surged forward, breaking through the enemy formation. But as the ship gained momentum, an alert flashed on Helena's console. "Intruders aboard," she said grimly. "They've breached Deck 7. Security teams en route," Graham confirmed. "Not enough," Helena muttered. These weren't ordinary raiders. They were too coordinated. "Activate internal defenses and seal off Deck 7. I want a status update every 60 seconds. Minutes passed like hours as Helena directed the chaos. The intruders advanced methodically, disabling systems as they moved. Helena studied the layout, searching for patterns. "They're headed for engineering," she realized. "They're trying to cripple us." "Captain, incoming transmission," the comms officer interrupted. "It's them." Helena's eyes narrowed. On screen, the holographic display flickered to life, revealing Calith Voss. His elongated features and pale skin marked him as Eltharian, one of the Galactic Council's elite races. His tone was measured, but his eyes burned with disdain. "Captain Skov," Calith said smoothly, "your reputation precedes you. Surrender now, and I promise your death will be merciful." Helena crossed her arms, unflinching. Mercy? From an assassin sent to kill me? Forgive me if I don't find that comforting. Kalis smirked. Human arrogance. You've clawed your way into the stars, but you're still savages. You should have stayed on your little rock. Helena leaned closer, her voice cutting like a blade. You've underestimated us. And that's your first mistake. She ended the transmission with a sharp gesture. Comms, broadcast ship-wide, all hands, this is the captain. We have intruders aboard and enemies at our doorstep. But this is the Artemis, and we don't go down without a fight. The crew erupted in a chorus of affirmations, their morale steeled by her defiance. Captain, security reports partial success in containing the intruders, but they're advancing faster than anticipated, Graham warned. Helena frowned. Then it's time to show them what humans are capable of. She tapped a command into her console. Throughout the Artemis, hidden panels slid open, releasing automated drones equipped with non-lethal containment measures. Smoke grenades hissed in sealed corridors, creating chaos among the attackers. As Kalith's team struggled against the unexpected countermeasures, Helena orchestrated a daring maneuver. She ordered the Artemis to feign engine failure, luring the remaining enemy ships into close range. Prepare to vent Deck 7, she commanded. But Captain, our people, Graham began. Are clear, she interrupted. Do it. With a deafening hiss, the airlocks on Deck 7 blasted open, sucking the intruders into the void. The Artemis surged to life, unleashing a barrage of firepower that obliterated 2 of the enemy's ships. The remaining vessels retreated, dragging Kalith's damaged ship with them. But before disappearing, Kalith's voice echoed through the comms. This is far from over, Captain. You've earned your reputation, but the Council will not be denied. Helena exhaled slowly, her adrenaline finally subsiding. She turned to her crew. Damage report? Minor structural damage, but we're operational, Graham replied. They underestimated us. Helena allowed herself a grim smile. Good. Let's make sure they keep doing that. Get me everything we can salvage from their tech. This isn't the last we'll see of them. As the Artemis returned to full operational status, Helena gazed out at the stars. The hunters had become the hunted, but she knew the real battle was yet to come. Let them come, she muttered. We'll be ready. The atmosphere on the bridge of the Artemis was taut, like a bowstring ready to snap. Captain Helena Skov stood at the central console, her expression carved from steel. The aftermath of Kalith's attack lingered in the air, scorch marks on the hull, exhausted crew, and a haunting question: what was the Galactic Council planning? Lieutenant Graham, status on the cloaking tech we salvaged from their ships? Helena asked, her voice clipped but calm. Analysis is ongoing, Captain, Graham replied, his brow furrowed as he sifted through data. Preliminary results suggest it's a hybrid system. Our engineers have never seen anything like it. It's designed to mask not just visual signatures but energy output as well. Helena leaned over the console, studying the fragmented data. And the energy trace from Deck 7's breaches? Graham hesitated. That's the part that worries me. The signature doesn't match any known Council weaponry. It's something new. Helena's jaw tightened. Run it against all Federation records. If they're testing a prototype, I want to know what it does before it's used on us again. The Artemis lurched slightly as the damaged propulsion systems groaned under strain. Helena glanced at the tactical display. The ship's systems were strained, but they still had teeth. Comms, she said, turning to the officer at the far station. Any word from Fleet Command? Negative, ma'am, the officer replied. The interference from their attack left long-range comms spotty. We'll need another few hours to get them fully operational. Helena scowled. Time was not on their side. Just then, an alert flashed on the main console. Captain, we're picking up faint distress signals from the Mistral, a human colony transport, the comms officer said. They're broadcasting an SOS from Quadrant 6D. Helena's eyes narrowed. That's dangerously close to where we encountered Kalith. It could be another trap, Graham warned. Or it could be civilians who need help, Helena countered. She straightened, her decision made. Set a course. Full combat readiness. If Caliph wants another round, we'll give him one. The Artemis entered the outskirts of Quadrant 6D, a patch of space littered with asteroid debris and electromagnetic disturbances. The faint signal grew stronger, pulling them toward a drifting vessel, a human transport ship, battered and leaking atmosphere. Visual, Helena commanded. The Mistral appeared on screen, a shadow of its former self. Its hull was ruptured in several places, and sparks of electricity arced between exposed conduits. No other ships detected, Graham reported, though his tone betrayed caution. Helena didn't relax. The wreckage was too clean, too convenient. Send a drone. I want a full sweep of the area before we approach. The bridge fell silent as the drone zipped toward the Mistral, its cameras feeding back distorted but functional images. The interior was a wasteland, shattered consoles, floating debris, and no signs of life. Anything on the heat scanners? Helena asked. Negative, Graham replied. Helena frowned. The Council wasn't known for half measures. If they'd set this up, there had to be more to it. Captain, the science officer interrupted, her voice tense. I'm detecting faint power signatures on an asteroid cluster nearby. It matches the energy trace from the cloaking tech. Helena's stomach turned cold. It's an ambush. All hands, battle stations. The moment the warning blared, the Mistral erupted in a flash of light. The bridge was momentarily blinded as an electromagnetic pulse washed over the Artemis. Shields holding, Graham reported, his hands flying over the controls. Minimal damage, but we're being hailed. Encrypted signal. Helena's lips pressed into a thin line. Caliph. The hologram activated, revealing the Eltharian assassin once more. His predatory smirk was intact, but there was a flicker of irritation in his eyes. Captain Skov, Kayla said smoothly. Your persistence is almost admirable. But you're out of your depth. Stand down, and I'll make this painless. Helena crossed her arms. Painless? That wasn't part of the deal last time. What's the real plan, Voss? Another trap? Or is this just how the Council deals with people they can't control? Calith's smile faded. Your arrogance blinds you. You think humans can play at this level? You're nothing but an infestation. Helena's eyes narrowed. And yet here you are, sweating over us. You're afraid. Calith's hologram flickered out without a response, replaced by the tactical display as enemy ships decloaked around the Artemis. The battle erupted in chaos. The Artemis spun to face the attackers, its weapons blazing. Helena directed fire with precision, her commands slicing through the din of battle. Target their thrusters first, she barked. Make them fight on our terms. The crew responded with practiced efficiency, striking one of the smaller enemy ships and sending it spiraling into an asteroid. Captain, they're trying to flank us, Graham called out. Helena's mind worked like a well-oiled machine. Rotate the starboard cannons. Use the debris as cover and force them into the open. As the Artemis maneuvered, a warning blared across the bridge. Boarding craft incoming! Helena gritted her teeth. Deploy countermeasures. Don't let them breach the hull. Amid the chaos, the science officer called out. Captain, the power signatures from the asteroid cluster are spiking. Something's activating. Helena's blood ran cold. On screen. The display shifted to show a small structure embedded in the asteroid, a station of alien design. Energy pulsed from its core, growing brighter by the second. It's a weapon, Graham said, horror creeping into his voice. If that thing fires. It won't, Helena interrupted. Tactical, lock onto that station. Full spread of torpedoes. Captain, their ships. I said fire! The Artemis unleashed a devastating barrage. Torpedoes streaked through the void, striking the station dead center. The structure erupted in a blinding explosion, scattering debris and sending shockwaves through the battlefield. The enemy ships faltered, momentarily disoriented. Helena seized the moment. All batteries, target the lead ship. Finish them off. The Artemis roared to life, its cannons reducing the lead enemy vessel to shrapnel. The remaining ships scrambled to retreat, dragging their wounded behind them. As the last enemy ship vanished into the void, the bridge fell silent, save for the hum of damaged systems. Helena exhaled slowly. Damage report? Moderate hull damage, but we're still combat ready, Graham replied. And the station? Destroyed, the science officer confirmed. But not before we pulled partial data from their systems. It's disturbing. The Council's working on a bioweapon, Captain. Aimed directly at Earth. Helena's fists clenched. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, and the picture was grim. Plot a course back to human space, she ordered. We need to get this data to Fleet Command. And Graham, double the watch. If Caleth comes back, I want to be ready. As the Artemis limped away, Helena stared out at the stars, her resolve hardening. The Council wasn't just targeting her, they were targeting all of humanity. Let them come, she muttered. We'll show them what happens when they underestimate us. The Artemis cruised through the emptiness of space, battered but unbroken. The crew worked tirelessly, their movements purposeful and efficient despite the lingering tension in the air. Captain Helena Skov stood on the bridge, her focus unwavering as the stars streaked past the viewports. They had uncovered the Council's bioweapon plans, evidence of a threat that loomed over Earth and all of humanity. But the Artemis was still deep in contested space, and Caleth Voss would not let them escape without a final gambit. Captain! Lieutenant Graham called from the tactical station, breaking the silence. Long-range sensors picking up an energy surge. Looks like multiple signatures. They're closing fast. Helena's jaw clenched. She didn't need to ask who it was. Battle stations. Shields up. All weapons primed. The alarm blared as the crew moved into position. Helena's gaze flicked to the main display, which showed 5 enemy vessels rapidly approaching. Among them, a massive warship loomed, its sleek design unmistakably council-made. Caleth's flagship, Helena muttered. The comms officer turned toward her. Incoming hail from the flagship, Captain. Helena straightened, her voice ice-cold. Put it through. Caleth's hologram appeared, his expression colder than before. Gone was the mocking smile. This time, there was only grim determination. Captain Skov, he began, his voice sharp as a blade. You've proven resourceful, but this is where it ends. Hand over the data, and perhaps I'll spare your crew. Helena's expression didn't falter. You're delusional if you think I'll give you anything. That data is going to the fleet, and no amount of threats will stop us. Caleth leaned closer, his tone venomous. You're signing your own death warrant, Skov. You think your defiance matters? You're a speck in the grand design. And yet here you are, chasing me like a desperate predator. Helena shot back. Maybe you're the one who should be worried. With a flick of her hand, she ended the transmission. Tactical, status on their formation. They're splitting into a pincer maneuver, Graham reported. The flagship is hanging back, likely coordinating the others. Helena's mind raced. She needed to outthink Caleth, not just outfight him. Helm, take us toward the asteroid field ahead, she commanded. Tactical, prepare for a full reverse thrust on my mark. We're going to use the debris to level the playing field. The Artemis plunged toward the chaotic field of rocks and ice, weaving through the obstacles with practiced precision. The enemy ships followed, their sleek designs giving them an edge in maneuverability, but Helena had no intention of engaging them directly, not yet. Captain, they're closing in, Graham warned. Not close enough, Helena replied. Hold fire. The enemy vessels pressed forward, their confidence growing as they closed the gap. Now! Helena barked. The Artemis abruptly reversed, engines flaring as it skidded to a halt. The enemy ships, caught off guard, scrambled to adjust their trajectories, but the delay was fatal. All batteries, fire at will! Helena ordered. The Artemis erupted with firepower, its cannons striking the lead enemy vessel and tearing through its shields. The ship buckled under the assault, breaking apart in a cascade of flames and debris. "Target the next one!" Helena called. Before the second ship could react, the Artemis unleashed another volley, forcing it to retreat into the asteroid field. "Captain, the flagship is moving in," Graham said. Helena turned her attention to the massive warship bearing down on them. It launched a barrage of energy blasts, each one narrowly missing the Artemis as it dodged through the debris. "Helm, keep us moving!" Helena shouted. "Tactical, focus fire on their weapons systems. We need to disable that thing." The Artemis danced through the field, firing back at the flagship with calculated precision. But the enemy warship was relentless, its shields absorbing the damage as it closed the distance. "Captain, their boarding craft are deploying!" Helena's stomach twisted. Caliph wasn't just trying to destroy them, he wanted the data. "Prepare for intruders," she ordered. "Security teams, hold the engineering bay at all costs." In the depths of the Artemis, chaos erupted as Council soldiers breached the hull. Clad in their sleek armor, they moved with deadly precision, cutting through resistance as they pushed toward engineering. Chief Engineer Arden Torres gritted his teeth as the sound of gunfire echoed down the corridors. He and his team worked furiously to reinforce the ship's critical systems, knowing they were the last line of defense. "Torres, report." Helena's voice crackled over the comms. "We're holding, but barely," Torres replied. "They're hitting us hard. If they take engineering, we're done for." "Hang in there," Helena said. "We're sending reinforcements." On the bridge, Helena weighed her options. The flagship was still pressing them, and her ship was running out of room to maneuver. "Tactical," she said, her voice steady. "Divert power from secondary systems to the main cannons. I want one concentrated burst, enough to punch through their shields." Graham hesitated. "Captain, that'll leave us vulnerable." "It's our only shot," Helena interrupted. The Artemis turned to face the flagship, its cannons charging with a blinding glow. The enemy warship fired back, but Helena held her ground, her eyes locked on the tactical display. "Steady, steady." The moment the flagship's shields flickered, she gave the order. "Fire!" The Artemis unleashed a searing blast, the energy cutting through the flagship's defenses and striking its central hull. Explosions rippled along the massive vessel as it veered off course, its systems failing. "Direct hit!" Graham exclaimed. Helena didn't celebrate. "Focus on the remaining boarders. We're not done yet." In engineering, Torres and his team fought tooth and nail to repel the intruders. The Council soldiers pressed forward, their weapons tearing through cover as they advanced. Just as Torres thought the line would break, a squad of security drones swarmed in, firing precision shots that forced the attackers into retreat. "Engineering secure," Torres reported, his voice ragged. On the bridge, Helena allowed herself a brief moment of relief. The enemy's ships were retreating, dragging their damaged flagship with them. Calith's voice crackled over the comms one final time. "This isn't over, Skov," he hissed. "The Council does not forget." Helena met his glare with cold defiance. "Neither do we." As the comms cut out, the crew erupted in muted cheers. The Artemis had survived, but Helena knew the fight was far from over. "Set course for Earth," she said. "We need to deliver that data before they regroup." As the stars stretched before them, Helena stood resolute. The Council had underestimated humanity before, and they would regret it again.